Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spirit Speaker KC podcast. I am psychic medium Jamie Collins. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm going to talk about a topic that came up last night in my mediumship development group. And so I thought this would be a good time to talk about that. It is a relatively short video, but it's about surrendering in our mediumship and what are some of the things that prevent us from surrendering. What do I mean by surrendering? Surrendering for me is when we allow in mediumship, when we're communicating, when we're in the middle of a session, connecting with those across the veil. And it's really us giving up control, meaning we're not trying to control the session with different things or different information. We are truly blending with spirit and allowing them to come through with whatever narrative story it is that they want to do. So, and I believe if whether you're a beginner medium, you're a seasoned medium, sometimes we can all fall into that trap of not allowing spirit to lead the way and us taking control. So that's what I mean by surrendering, where you go into a session with no expectations. You simply relax, let go, and let spirit lead the way. And that's what surrendering is. And it may be one of the hardest things to do. And it's one of those things that came up in the development circle because students would be like, well, what happens if I can't do this, or what happens if I'm trying to do this? And it's really hard for us, even in our everyday lives, to just surrender and not always have to be in control of things. So I'm going to talk about some ways, or what are some ways, some things that prevent us from surrendering. And the very first thing that I can think about that prevents us from surrendering is demanding certain types of information. So, you're giving a reading and you're doing this reading, and the whole time, instead of just relaxing, surrendering, allowing spirit to come through, we try. And I always tell students, don't try. Just allow, surrender and allow. What does that mean, demanding? So you may be looking for the way the spirit crossed over, the way that they died. You might be looking for their career. You're telling spirit what you want to talk about, what you want to give the client. And so that's something that can prevent us from surrendering, is by demanding specific information. Okay? So go into it, whether you say, okay, spirit, I'd like to see this picture or that symbol or this sign. I always say, don't demand. Let spirit lead the way. A second thing that can happen when we are giving a reading is asking questions of spirit. So I'm a big believer that if I'm asking questions or specific questions, then I'm the one in control. And so I'm a believer. I'm not going to say you can never ask spirit questions, but again, that's taking control. If I were in front of you and I said, what is your name? What do you do for work? How old are you? Where do you live? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? You get the idea. If I'm asking you all these questions, I'm the one in control. Whereas when I'm giving a session with spirit, very seldom am I speaking to spirit in my mind, tell me this, or tell me how you died. Tell me what you did for work. I'm not asking them questions. How did you die? How old were you when you died? When did you live? Where did you live? I'm not asking spirit those questions. I if I do happen to have moments of silence where I feel like I'm not getting anything, I just may say to spirit in my mind, tell me more. Tell me more. But I'm a big believer that one of the things that can prevent us from surrendering is asking questions. And it kind of goes back to number one, demanding certain types of information. Again, it's about control. Because if you're asking questions, you're in control. And we don't want to be in control. Let spirit come through the way, however it is that they want to come through. Just surrender. And I even do this in my sessions. Before I begin a session, I always say to spirit, please come through in the way that you think is the best way for your loved one, in ways that I will understand. You tell me your story. That's literally all I say to spirit. Tell me your story. I don't say, hey, spirit, I'd like to get this, or spirit, I want this. Spirit, can you give me this? I think this would be really cool, spirit. I don't do that. I just say to spirit, tell me your story. Another thing that can prevent us from surrendering is it kind of goes back to that checklist approach. And some of you may have had teachers in the past. I really have found over the years that a lot of teachers are getting away from the checklist approach. And the checklist approach is, again, how did you die? How old were you? Where did you live? What was your career? What was your job? How many kids did you have? So years ago in mediumship, a lot of us were taught the checklist approach. Like literally there would be a checklist. You'd cross off, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. But I have found over, maybe the past 5-6 years, that a lot of teachers and instructors are getting away from the checklist approach. But there are those teachers out there that are still teaching the checklist approach. But I'm really a big believer in get away from the checklist approach. That is something that can prevent you from surrendering. And why? Why do you think? Just think about this for a moment. Because I think you're in your head. If you really think about it, if in your mind you're like, how did they die? How old were they when they died? Where did they live? What kind of work? You're in your head. And that's taking you out of your power of blending with that spirit communicator. So you want to get out of your head. And if you're in that checklist, if your mind is on that checklist, it's taking you out of your connection, your power with that spirit person. So that's one of the reasons I really don't like the checklist. And let's face it, we've talked about this on this podcast. The spirit world, when they come forth, they're quite intelligent. They know exactly what their loved one needs. We don't need to give anything. If we'll simply trust and get out of the way, we know that spirit will come through what needs to come through. Another thing, these next two things may go hand in hand as something that can prevent you from surrendering, okay? Is you're afraid to say something. Or another way of putting that would be doubt. You are doubting what you're getting. You're doubting what you're receiving. And again, why is that bad? Because you're in your head. You're thinking too much instead of just surrendering and allowing spirit to come through. Or maybe it's something so unusual. You're like, no way. This can't be. I can't say that. That can't happen. And you have to be open to the possibility of anything coming through. So I would say being afraid to say something or doubt can prevent you from surrendering. So this is one of those things where get out of your head. Don't doubt. If something comes to you, say it. I'm always a big believer that spirit is not going to waste any information. I'm a believer, I may not always understand what that information is, but then again, if you think about it, that information isn't for me to understand. It's for their loved one to understand. And so we have to be open to the possibility that spirit will come through with anything. So don't be afraid of saying it. Don't doubt it. If it drops in, there's a reason why it's dropping in. Okay? So when we surrender, we totally get out of the way of what we're trying to do. That can prevent us from surrendering. Those 4 things, 5 things can prevent us from surrendering. It's really important as mediums, we get out of our own way and let spirit lead the narrative. Let them take control of the session. I told you, I literally say that to spirit. This is your session. I'm here for you. I'm the spirit ambassador. So I truly go in. When I go into a session, I have no expectations. None. I tell my clients when I'm kind of giving my spiel at the beginning, I tell them all the time, I have absolutely no idea what's going to come through because every session for me is like a fingerprint. They're all different. So how can I go in with expectations if I truly believe that every session is different? So I tell my clients, I have no idea what's going to go on in this session. I have no idea what I'm going to say. I have no idea what spirit is going to say. I simply surrender. I get my ego out of the way. And really, guys, sometimes I get excited. I'm as excited as the client because sessions are so different. I'm excited to see what comes through because the spirit comes through with so many cool things, or they'll say things and I'm just blown away. So I get as excited as the clients do because I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. And I don't want to know. That's why I don't have any expectations. And think about it. Can you imagine sitting down for session after session and expecting the same thing? That would be boring to me. I would not want to be a medium and give messages like that. If it was boring or the same thing time after time again. So I love that I never know what's going to come through. I love it. It makes it exciting to me. And so that's why I say, I tell spirit, I really set the intention with spirit. I don't tell spirit anything. I just really set the intention with spirit, like, hey, I'm going to get out of the way. Come on through. And I say to spirit, let's have fun. Let's have fun. Let's have some healing and messages for your loved one that's here. Let's make this an experience that they won't forget. Show them that you're here and help me to get out of the way. And that's what I do. So again, some things that just think about this the next time you may have a not so good or difficult or challenging session. Even if it's practice, I don't care. It doesn't have to be professional where you're getting paid. But what I want you to think about is if you have a challenging session, I want you to think about one of these things about preventing, that will prevent you from surrendering. Did you demand information? Or going into it, were you looking for very particular information? Were you asking questions? Or did you allow spirit to come through the way they wanted to come through? Did you already have a preconceived checklist? Where, again, it kind of goes back to expecting certain things, but did you have a checklist in your mind? Were you afraid to say something that came through? Did you have some doubt? And that's even what I do when I have a difficult session. I always self-reflect, self-evaluate all of my sessions, especially if it's a difficult session, because I'm a believer that it's in those difficult sessions is where I'm going to learn the most. That's what helps me develop and improve my mediumship, is when I have those difficult sessions. Think about it. If I always had awesome session after awesome session and everything is growing fantastic, what would I learn? It's like anything in life. Sometimes we have to have some challenges that make us self-reflect, self-evaluate, and go back. So whenever I have a session, I do that. And most of the time, you can believe it was one of those 3 to 4 things I told you about: demanding, asking questions, doubting what I'm receiving, not allowing the spirit world to tell the story or come through with whatever it is that they want. And so I challenge you, as you go forward and you are looking back at your sessions, and just ask yourself, where did I go wrong? I'm not saying it can't be some other things. Maybe you didn't have a good blend, or you couldn't really sense or feel spirit. I'm not saying that, but most of the time you will find that you had these expectations. And I'll finish with: go into a session with no expectations and have fun, and let the spirit world lead the way. If you let the spirit world lead the way, I promise you, you'll have wonderful sessions, you'll have wonderful readings, and it's a lot less stressful if you get out of your own way. I've cut my stress in half. If I say, hey, let's have fun, I'm done. I feel like you'll have really good sessions if you don't have any expectations. Again, if you haven't subscribed, go to my YouTube channel at Spirit Speaker KC. I'm also on Spotify. I'm really interested if there are any other topics about mediumship, or guest speakers that you would like to have. One of the things I am thinking about doing, probably within the next month, maybe a Thursday in October, is having a live, and where it will stream on YouTube, stream on my Facebook. But in about another month, I'm going to try a live, and you can come through. If you have questions, maybe I'll do some readings online. This will kind of be a new experience for me, but I also thought that it would be quite fun to have a live. So look for that in about a month or so, doing a live. And if it kind of goes pretty well, maybe that's something that we can do monthly. Once a month, we do a live. So let me know if you're interested in that. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this topic about surrendering really helps, and not having any expectations. And I will see you next time.